I chose thick paper of 3x4 format. It is stable enough to withstand work with a palette knife and an abundance of water, but at the same time it retains the feeling of lightness, which was necessary for the airy sky. The first stage I worked on the background. The sky is always a space in which you want to dissolve, so I decided to use a fan brush, slightly diluted acrylic paints, white, light blue, blue. I chaotically applied with horizontal movements, giving the palette knife. While the paint was not dry, I took an ordinary plastic bag, inflated it with air, and carefully rolled it on the still wet paint. This gave a slight blurry effect, as if the sky was breathing and the clouds were moving. This technique allows you to achieve organics, which is difficult to create with a brush. Next, I moved on to the grass. Here I worked actively, powerfully. I used a palette knife, a tool that gives the feeling of sculpture, not just painting. I applied the dark green and bright light green shades with wide, sharp movements from the bottom up. In some places I scraped off the excess, in others I left ridges. This is how the illusion of depth and diversity of vegetation is created. The palette knife does not forgive inaccuracies, but this is what makes the brushstroke lively. Now the flowers. Contrast is the key to expressiveness. On the left I depicted a withering, almost dead flower, black with gold veins. It turned out heavy, dense, as if made of metal. I drew its petals with the tip of the palette knife, slightly pressing and lifting to give it a three-dimensional shape. It seems to be lowered down, sadness, loss, shadow. On the right is the main accent of the composition, a lush, bright flower in the midst of life. Yellow, orange, carmine. I applied these colors in several stages, allowing them to slightly mix right on the paper. I outlined the petals with both a palette knife and my fingers. Sometimes the hand feels the shape better than the tool. I wanted the flower to glow from within. I added white strokes here and there to enhance the effect of volume and freshness. The final touch was the sky with birds. They were added with black paint and a thin brush. This is a symbol of freedom, transition, perhaps a hint of the soul leaving the fading flower, rushing upward. Don't be afraid to experiment with tools. A bag, a palette knife, a brush, even your fingers. Everything can become an extension of your mood. And don't be afraid of contrasts. They are what give meaning. Critical analysis of the painting. Before us is an expressive painting, painted in acrylic on paper, clearly expressed in the artist's special handwriting. The painting creates a strong visual and emotional response to the contrast of color, texture, and shape. However, she is far from being homeless, and in this way she is alive and well. Composition and structure. The composition is shifted to the right. The head cover pushes the gaze to the edge. This is a brave approach, non-standard. But in truth, it reinforces the unevenness, the internal tension between the two colors. At the moment, the left part of the picture feels insufficiently completed. The dark box looks almost like shadow and mercy. And although the semantic subtext, life and death, birth and death, can be read, this part of the composition will require further refinement. It is possible to strengthen the contours, add a little light, to level out the right part, color and tonality. Color decision is the strongest side of this work. The bright yellow hot flower literally spins forward, creating a feeling of life, warmth, and the spirit of inner well-being. The addition of raspberry and carmine adds emotional richness. The sky, favored by ultramarine and white brushstrokes, is dynamic. One can feel the wind, the roar, and a hint of restlessness. Tim is no less. When combined with an active background and a bright little flower, it will overwhelm the look. In some of the villages, there is no wind, as the eye might have guessed. The bottom of the picture with green floors looks a little flat and graphic. This doesn't have to be with the rich text and tone. It's still intimate. Also, palette knife and bag gives the work a sense of spontaneity and lively texture. The brushstrokes are free, they don't lack a certain precision. That's a plus. It is clear that the artist understands the material, which is not afraid to experiment. The sky is particularly distant. The gloom appears crumbling, plastic. The cups, especially the right one, are covered with visible plastic, and in some places the form spills and is consumed depending on the volume. The left figure, dark box, is perceived as not being fully developed. It is clear that there is an effort to convey the metaphor of nursing, but it must be subtly processed in line with other elements. An imbalance is to blame. Style and vibrancy. The work is based on expressionism with elements of symbolism. There is no emphasis on realism here. Instead, the artist focuses on feeling, energy, contrast. The style is reminiscent of intuitive painting. The flow of information is quicker, the composition is less intense. This gives the picture vitality, individuality, and internal dramaturgy. Sensations and impressions. The most powerful pictures are contrasted. Life and death, light and darkness, warmth and cold, ruin and unruliness. The birds in the sky give a hint of the sight, the roar, and the hour. It's a philosophical work to talk about smoothness, beauty and development, and simplicity in appearance. Everything is served without words, only through color and form. And it's goodness, because the work really evokes emotions. Final assessment. The picture is emotionally intense, funny, and honest. Its weakness lies in the unbalanced composition and sometimes insufficient processing of other elements. However, if you don't have enough, you shouldn't use this variety. Before us is not a sterile gallery, but a living, special artist's work, which conveys the dimensions of time through acrylic and gesture.